Welcome back to Derailed. I am your host, JJ Lahey, here with my good friend, Jake Schyvinck. Jake, thank you so much for joining us. You know, we missed you. Appreciate having Chris, the one and only Chris Jackman, on here last week. But we did miss you. So I'm glad that you're back in the studio with us today.
Feels good to be back, for sure. I know there was a lot to talk about. There was a pretty quick getting to the live show last week because of a certain player getting released. But yeah, this will be a fun one too. If you haven't, those who are listening and watching, if you haven't seen the title and haven't read it, should be a good one. So.
Yeah, I am excited about today's topic. I'm even more excited that we have KDS in the chat. Man, it has been a long stinking time since we've had Katie here in the Derailed chat with us. I mean, like, shoot, feels like a year. It's probably only been like 8 months, but it feels like a year since we've had Katie. So, Katie, we have missed you. I'm glad you're in here. And we have Tyler Dershel, the one and only. He said, Derailed and policy speaks. What a great day. Yeah, and there's been a lot of pictures.
Which policy? Foreign or Ed?
The only one that matters. Talk about foreign policy on this pod. That's our other pod. That's Derailed After Dark, where we talk about politics. Yeah.
JJ hasn't invited me to that one yet.
Actually, Jake, I don't think that you and I ever, even like in private, have ever.
I don't think so.
Broached the topic at all. I'm going to be 1,000% honest. I have no idea where you stand politically. I would guess you probably don't know where I stand politically. It just never comes up because when you and I are talking off camera, we're usually talking movies, to be honest.
Yes, usually movies. Usually anything extra that we thought of. Sometimes that may be related to like non-Packers football. Usually comes up.
We
right. There's a lot of Big Ten talk that happens as well when we go clear of the show. So,
yeah, and one of the worst things that we do is sometimes we hop on here early, like 15, 20 minutes early to test audio, whatever, just be extra prepared. And we get going on a topic and we'll look down and be like, shoot, we are like 5, 10, 15 minutes late getting started because we're talking ball. Yeah. And then we press go and we're like, well, I don't really want to like restart that same conversation over from the beginning, but it was really good.
Yeah.
So, all right. So Jake, last week, Chris and I talked about the kind of surprise release of Jaire. And it feels silly to say surprise release since there was a 6-month buildup to it.
Yeah.
But still, just like the way it happened, still ended up feeling shocking in the moment. And I think that it overall ended up being kind of a downer episode because Chris and I were both kind of bummed about the state of the cornerback room. And you and I have talked kind of a lot on here about just the overall thinness of the cornerback and D-line rooms and how, those kind of compound each other a little bit. And that, it's maybe a bit of a worrisome situation for the defense. And so then I have kind of spent the whole week feeling a little down about the state of the roster. And I think I put my finger on where the disappointment and frustration is coming from for me. And that is that there's a number of extremely talented young guys who aren't contributing much. And so I wanted to talk with you today about where these young guys might step up and which of them have the greatest potential to really propel the Packers forward. You look at like Devontae Wyatt, I feel like he's kind of already arrived. Like he had kind of a lot of injury problems this past year that were a problem, but when he was available, he was a game wrecker. We need more Devontae Wyatts. Yeah. Obviously, Edgerrin Cooper last year, did not end up getting to play a ton of snaps, but when he was out there, he looked really good. He was a force of positive damage for the defense. And we have seen flashes from Jayden Reed, Tay Wicks, even Lukas Van Ness. I want to go through the guys who are not regular contributors who have potential to do so. And maybe the best place to start is to take a look at, the recent draft classes for the Packers and and uh, acknowledge the guys who are contributing because we super appreciate them. And I accidentally closed my window just now, which is making me mad. I got to pull back up though. Thank goodness for Control Shift T that lets you reopen your tab that you just closed. So looking back at 2022 is kind of where we had to look back because basically the 2021 draft class is not here anymore. But starting in 2022, there's a pile of guys who are contributing and a few guys who maybe it's time to give up on. And after 2022, there's just a bunch of untapped potential. I'm going to hit a couple comments before we really dig into this. Drew, thank you for joining. Happy to have you on here. Katie says Quay and Lukas Van Ness are the ones that come to mind right away, although Quay was coming on at the end of last year. I agree with that. The Brotherhood Sports says Lukas Van Ness, Devontae Wyatt, and Quay Walker need to step up big time. And Katie also wants to know how much did LVN's hand actually affect him. That is an interesting one to touch on as well. Maybe we will dive into that more when we get to the 2023 draft class. Let's first start with 2022. So Quay Walker, Devontae Wyatt, the 2 first-round picks. I don't know where you stand. I think that Devontae Wyatt has arrived already, that he is a solid contributor, can be a game wrecker, and if he had been able to stay healthy all last year, we would not be having any conversations at all, other than how much is it going to cost us to give him this extension.
Yeah, I think that's where the Packers have already decided that, right? They've made that 5th-year option. They put it in ink essentially with that 5th-year option of like, no, we're keeping him around because I do think the only thing that kept Devontae Wyatt from essentially arriving last year was just that he didn't play as much, right? We lost him for a few games there in kind of the middle of the season, where I think if he played the full year, I think a lot of Packer fans would be in agreement. They'd be like, no, he's the guy. He's our guy rushing the passer. No question about it. His disruptiveness is what's going to sort of carry this front as long as they get more contributions elsewhere. So, yeah, I think as long as he plays a full season this year, I think we'll see that, and it will be very evident why Green Bay picked up that 5th-year option. I don't think we have to dive in too much on Wyatt, because I think we are in agreement that, he's essentially would be considered the guy if he played the full season in 2024.
And the fact that the Packers declined Quay Walker's 5th-year option, but they like him and want to get a deal done with him, and they just don't think that he's worth the 5th-year option. That to me, this is the whole problem with why I don't want to draft a freaking linebacker in the first round. You're saying, well, he's not worth the 5th-year option because he's a linebacker. Well, then, do you think that there is an off-ball linebacker who they would say is worth the 5th-year option? Because I just don't think that there is an off-ball.
Maybe Cooper will be, but again, he wasn't picked in the first, so it makes it very difficult. It makes it very difficult to go you look at the first-round linebacker history and who's worth the 5th-year option? Who would you have placed that 5th-year option on? It's again why you look at, Quay
Walker has been a hit. Like the Packers would tell you, they think Quay Walker is a hit, and yet because he's an off-ball linebacker, they don't want to pay him what the 5th-year option is. So why'd you spend a first-round pick on him? That's why I'm asking. Dershel says, need some love for my boy, Javon Bullard. Jewel for this says, yo, sorry I'm late, was on the phone. Maybe I should read this quietly before I read it out loud, just in case he says something crazy. Sorry I'm late, was on the phone with my brother while he was complaining about people on Facebook Marketplace. I do wish I had read that quietly in my head. That was thanks to Ulfris.
Excellent.
Love
that.
All right. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, it comes again. The first round. There's a lot of different ways you could go with it. I think the surplus value of taking a linebacker, even if it's in the 20s, just really isn't there. Based on the history of what we've seen with the return on investment of the linebacker position, where kind of that the best value has been over the past decade. It's obviously not been in the first, right? Again, you can look at the Roquan Smith's probably the one that you would go, yep, that's the hit in the first round, like immediately, if you were talking about recent history. So yeah, I mean, it just the surplus value of the 5th-year option and then what they're being paid relative to their performance based on what the top players are getting at the position, right, is, it's minimal. You pick up that 5th-year option for Quay, it's, I don't know what the number is in terms of he's the top X, paid linebacker in the league, but it's significant, right? And it isn't that significant when you look at Devontae Wyatt. If you believe in Devontae Wyatt enough of like, yeah, he's an impact pass rushing defensive tackle, like $12 million next year in 2026 is very minimal compared to what some of these guys are making now, right? Like, gosh, Odigizua in Dallas, I don't remember what the number was, 17, 18, was it 20? I don't even, like, doing exactly that. And so you're getting that value from Wyatt in that 5th year relative to what Odigizua just got from Dallas. So
he got 20. Yeah,
20.
4 years,
so like,
80 mil.
Yeah, so you $8 million in value difference between him and Odigizua, which I feel like if Wyatt, gosh, I'm gonna keep messing up their names. If Wyatt plays the full season, you go, yeah, no, he's on that level, and he's making, and then we'll have this conversation next offseason, like, wow, look at that, he's making $8 million less than Odigizua's AAV over the course of his current deal, and there will be obviously other comparisons you can make as well. Madubuike obviously has a big number from Baltimore, who I think deserved it. But again, that's why you take defensive tackles in the first. And that's why, in the Van Ness draft, right, there were a lot of defensive linemen that went the first round, right? Defensive tackles and edge rushers. Because everybody's like, let's get the value on this. We think the class is deep. Might as well take them. So, and it happens at linebacker. It's why Jeanty wasn't the first overall pick, right? Jeanty has now got the second most guaranteed money in the league at running back, right? Because he was picked at number 6. So, again, that's why you look at certain positions and you go, yeah, so we want the surplus value of the QB, obviously. Offensive tackle, receiver, defensive tackle, right? Edge, corner, right? Those are the ones where you look at it the most and go, that's where we're getting the most value in the first. So why did they take Quay Walker in the first? That lends to the other conversation that I think is much more difficult, to kind of quantify and qualify, is like every draft is different. So if you feel like there's a drop off there, then yes, the surplus value doesn't tell you that, but maybe, based on where you have everybody in kind of a big grouping grade-wise, it's like, well, if things fall off, the 20s aren't really where the biggest value is going to come in that draft. And I think that curve can shift based on, obviously, perception of the class in general, and then also the results when you look back at it. So Green Bay, I think, was in a weird spot in that draft. I think, for one, I think they were in a weird spot in 2025 as well. Maybe other than one guy who I'm sure was brought up last week, because Jaire got released. But like, sometimes when you're in the 20s, it's a weird spot that, the quote unquote consensus first round picks, they're gone. And now you're in a kind of a big pool from 20 to 40, 20 to 50, 20 to 60, depends on the draft. So that's what's, I think, the most difficult, about kind of putting all the pieces together with the Quay pick, is like, yeah, would you have taken him there? I think we were both on the side of no. I remember Quay being my linebacker 5 in that class, which I think
he was my player number 100 exactly.
Right. So it's like, I understand what they're thinking about with this, because, they're like, okay, big, fast, athletic linebackers is kind of the future of like, hey, we got to constrict space. So we need these guys who are big, who we think, okay, if they're big enough, right, we'll be able to take on blocks, play within the tackles, and also be athletic enough to, constrict space wherever it be, in the middle of the field or on the perimeter, right? So I understand it, but also a guy like Leo Chenal was also athletic and also, could play around the box and was drafted, I think, 70 some picks later. And so there is kind of that, all of these factors that go into that. And so, yeah, it's a tough one. Would I have picked Quay there? No. Do I understand the process?
Regardless.
Sure. Yes, kind of. But yeah, he is. There's a reason they aren't picking up that fifth. One, they're maybe not completely sure on the ceiling and where he can get in this year, but also why we pick up that option if we can pay him less per year on a deal coming back, right? Like that's so there's all of that that goes into it. That's what makes the draft so interesting and so difficult and so fun, and like it's all those things.
By the way, Tool for this is asking, is this KDS in the chat? Is this the same Katie that we had the Matt Ramage
Yo, that what a time.
So I ran into Matt at the draft. He definitely remembers this.
As he should.
This was Matt is going to come back on here again soon.
Yes.
Not exactly sure when, because we didn't put it on the books, but we definitely want to have Matt back on the pod.
Absolutely.
Again, very soon.
Absolutely.
So
it is.
Okay, look.
Yes.
I do notice
it's great.
A trending theme with you and me, and also with Chris when we have him on here. I noticed that we are starting to critique Goody's drafting a little more in recent years than we used to. We do need to stay focused, though, on what we're doing today, which is talking about how these guys can really step up and have breakout seasons. Let's just have Matt drink a redacted with us. I don't know if Matt would want to drink a redacted because
he might drink
there's
other
not enough
redacted.
liquor.
Yeah, there's other redacteds.
I think Matt is going to drink and then come on, and then we will have to redact some of the things that he said.
Well, that's possible, yeah. That's why you got to be here for the live stuff, because we can't really
do that real time. 2022, we kick off with Quay Walker, Devontae Wyatt, Christian Watson. So Walker, Wyatt, Watson, and then later we take another Walker. So, you were already struggling with Walker versus Wyatt. So we got 4 W's now.
Yeah, Walker,
Christian
Wyatt,
Watson. Do you think that that Christian Watson, pre-injury, has kind of maxed out what he can be for the Packers, or do you think there's still more to tap into if he returns from injury and they bring him back on a new contract, because this is his final year?
Yeah, I think the late season stretch last year, and then obviously that 4-game stretch with 12, where he was just on a heater. I think that shows you what the ceiling is. I don't think there's a magical.
This past year, he certainly turned a corner and elevated
100%.
But do you think that is him arriving, or do you think there is still
I think so.
Hey, there's wide receiver 1 in there somewhere, and he can tap into that further, or do we just need what he has been consistently?
That's what we need. Yeah,
2024 Watson, but consistency.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think. Again, I was pretty critical of the Watson pick.
Well, you remember how much I did not want Watson prior to picking him.
Simply because I just thought that if you were looking for this sort of well-rounded 3-phase, 3-level player, that I just didn't think he was going to be it. And I don't think he is. And that's not a bad thing, right? It's not. I think that he is maxed out in the sense of the reliability at the catch point has gotten so much better, right? We've talked a lot about what he does, with stem contact more as he stretches the field. I just don't think you're looking at, and I love this from Adam. Yeah, I don't think Watson has a 1 in him, a top 10-ish. Yeah, I don't think we're going to ever see that. I think he can sort of entrench himself in the 20 to 35 area, which across the league, again, I don't think there are 32 true ones, right? At least yet. We'll see on some of these rooks, but I think he can confidently say that you are putting an elite receiver to field stretching player who has his his games where he can just go off because of the size and speed and because he has kind of gotten a hold on it, right? I don't think he's ever going to be the guy who's running quality dig routes and comeback routes and, winning with efficiency, because he just isn't that player at this point. He isn't overwhelmingly physical and quick in that combination in short succession, right? Like some of these guys are. Like you've seen the Nico Collins breakout where physically he is imposing and it's hard to handle and he has enough athleticism to boot, right? And so he has made that leap. So there is that sort of thing that I just don't think you're going to get from him, because again, I think he's got the kind of, it's still a slender build. It's not, I feel like he isn't somebody you look at and go, wow, he can really break down and change direction, right? He has the explosiveness, but can he keep it under control in the kind of the tight window, tight space at the break point? No. But what he is, and what I think those of us who went in and going, okay, I think he can be this, right? I think we're still kind of going, yeah, like this, we've kind of realized what I think those of us who were a little cooler on Watson of like, this is what he can be. I think he has reached that at the very least, which should be considered a hit at this point. Now, if you were expecting, now there were some out there saying he was a top 3 receiver in the class, thinking he was an auto elite wide receiver 1, then he hasn't lived up to that, and I don't think he reaches it. Right? I think, again, in the injury, obviously the injuries have piled up, and this latest one is so disappointing, and really tough for him, because I think he could have entrenched himself as the wide receiver 2, field stretcher, Z, give him some gadget stuff for a long time, and we'll see if it materializes at this point, because obviously you bring in a player like Savion, and we'll see. But I do think, like,
your favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough situation with Watson. So it is.
And with the injury status and then bringing in all the new guys, obviously, the door is very much open to the possibility that his time with the Packers is over, which would be disappointing for everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
The 2022 class, if we're looking for guys we invested hefty draft capital in, who need to contribute more, I would say Quay Walker still clearly has a lot more to tap into.
Yes.
He's you can see the potential there that is not being fulfilled, despite the fact that I think he has been a huge positive for the team, and I'm glad to have him. Glad to that the Packers are working on a new deal for him.
Yeah.
I feel like he has a lot more to tap into in a way that Wyatt and Watson, I don't know that they do, because we've seen kind of the believable ceiling from Wyatt and Watson, just minus the long-term consistency, both of them due to injuries, I would say.
Yeah.
And then the next guy up in that class is Sean Ryan, who I'm borderline ready to move on from at this point. Certainly have no interest in re-signing past his rookie contract. Romeo Doubs and Zach Tom, that we both took in the 4th round. Obviously Zach Tom is about to break the bank for us, and and I couldn't be happier about time.
It. Yeah.
Like Zach Tom, if you're asking, is there still more for him to achieve? I'd say, no, please stay healthy. Can we get a full career out of you? That's all I'm asking, because he's one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL. He has the versatility, which we haven't really needed to tap into so far. But I mean, like lockdown, set it and forget it, right tackle. We have a high degree of confidence that there's multiple other spots on the offensive line we could move him to if we needed to and still have him be, all pro caliber player. Romeo Doubs, like give me your prediction right now whether we are bringing Romeo Doubs back after 2025, because like the talent is there. It's just it's such a freaking crowded room. And I saw, who was it? Somebody said,
this is tough.
I think it was this one. Brotherhood Sports said, I would pay Doubs and let Watson walk. It feels doubtful that they're both going to be back, I would say.
I don't think Doubs is somebody who's getting less than $7 million a year. Just letting you know.
Not even close.
Like,
not even close.
Just a little quick one for the chat. Who's a better player, Romeo Doubs or Darius Slayton?
Yeah, it's not even close.
Right? And like I'm looking it up now, but I'm almost positive that Darius Slayton got $12 million a year. Okay. He got 3 for 36. So Doubs is getting more than that.
Minimum, he's getting 15. Minimum.
Like the Jerry Jeudy deal at 17 is hilarious. How good that looks right now for Cleveland. Like he should be making way more than that. And so when you look at some of these wide receiver twos, especially, like they're not going to settle. Doubs is. I'm sorry, unless like I don't know what's going to happen for him. Like I don't know what kind of miracle we need, but like I just don't think he's going to pass on 15 from somebody to come back to Green Bay for, $20 million guaranteed. That's a little different. That's a bit different.
Can I say something that
but
is like maybe borderline stupid, but maybe it's genius? I feel like Doubs is like he's a poor man's wide receiver 1. And like one of the best wide receiver 2s in the league. Like I wouldn't want him to be our 1, but if you are really confident in your 1 and Doubs is your 2, like you feel so good about your situation. Like pair Doubs with Justin Jefferson or Amon-Ra. Like that is.
Yeah, I mean,
Brotherhood said he's a 1 in a pinch. He's been a 1 for us at times. I mean, and this is the thing about having this like rotational wide receiver room that we have. We've had multiple guys kind of be a 1 for 2 weeks at a time, which is like, I mean, I like superstar. To be a superstar, you got to be consistently great. And none of our guys are consistently great. But they've demonstrated greatness at times. And I think we've seen greatness the most frequently from Doubs of the guys that we have. What do you think?
Yeah, probably. He's come up bigger, I think, in moments than the others have to this point. Maybe minus Watson down the stretch. I'd have to go through it and say he's one of the best number 2s. I'm trying to go through it in my head at the moment. And I'm at like a maybe. But like, again, it's a weird offense because there are certain offenses that can get away with stuff like this, where you can bunch stuff up. You can make 4 strong on one side of the field, where you have a sacrificial X, as some have said. Right, I think somebody said it way back up. Adam Huddle said it, that Watson's the sacrificial X. So you can kind of have that because other guys, you have ways to scheme players, open. So yeah, I still think like I think he probably did the second best job of anybody getting like truly open on a variety of routes last year, other than Wicks, but was obviously a little more reliable than Wicks was in terms of moving the chains. So, yeah, I think It's a
The
tricky
Brotherhood
one.
says
It's
Dobbs
tricky to
gets
bring.
20
It's a
mil
tricky one to bring him back.
guaranteed. And I think
so.
I'm kind of settling on Dobbs might get close to 20 mil per year.
Wow.
I'm feeling a 3-year deal for somewhere between 50 and 60 total. Maybe 3 years, 50 mil, something like that. Sounds about right to me for Dobbs.
Yeah, where Judy's is right now. Yeah, that's possible. Trying to think. I know somebody said it. Somebody said Tyler Dershel said he's going to play for the Panthers. Chargers have a lot of cap space. Vegas has a lot of cap space. Pittsburgh has already been talked about with, kind of being interested. Yeah, those would make sense, and those teams could shell out that much. Maybe Washington gets involved too.
He's going to go to Pittsburgh and catch passes from Will Howard.
Or whoever they draft next year. Yeah. So
they're not going to draft anybody.
The
Steelers drafting a quarterback. Buddy, they just drafted one in 2021. It's really soon to draft another one, even though, he's not with the team anymore.
Right.
Gotta give it a few more years.
Yeah. So, I think, Bateman got 20 mil guaranteed, 36 for 3. Which I don't know how much.
Who would you rather have, Dobbs or Bateman?
That's tight for me.
Hey, we got Acme Army podcast tuning in.
That's tight.
Nice to see you in the chat here. Long time no see. Dobbs 60 mil, Watson 55 mil, Reed 70 mil, Wicks 100 mil. I'll go sign on Wicks 100 mil.
Heck yeah. Give Wicks all the money. I don't know. I'll get back to you on that one. I'm unsure. I'll get back to you.
All right. Adam has some juicy gossip that I didn't hear about this at all, but that's not that surprising. Didn't it lightly get reported his camp asked for the Judy deal, and then he instantly was rumored as part of the D gang trade?
Yeah, I mean, Judy's base salaries are like really nice right now for Cleveland. So, yeah, I mean, if I were them, I'd be asking for something like that. Yeah, he got 3. Well, Judy got a lot guaranteed. Holy cow. So Judy got 3 for 52, right? He had 41 guaranteed at signing. That's a lot. I don't think Green Bay is going to be doing that much guaranteed. But I mean those contract terms could be something they're looking at, because I mean, JJ, you kind of brought that up. It was like they could absolutely do that. So, not shocking. I mean, Pittsburgh literally has nobody. I mean, they want Roman Wilson to be the guy, maybe as number 2, but like they don't have anything right now.
Roman Wilson,
as far as I'm concerned. So
he's
the answer. Yeah, I don't know how you fit
Pittsburgh.
Arthur
from what I've heard,
he's not going to be Darnell Mooney. So,
from what I've heard, Pittsburgh is desperately trying. Desperately in Pittsburgh, fashion, trying to add another pass catcher. They're calling about tight ends and wide receivers. What's his name? Jonathan Jones, is that his name? Jonathan Jones was reporting that. Oh, he's in the media now. He was reporting that
Jonathan Jones, Jonnu Smith.
That some teams some GMs have been complaining that the Steelers are calling teams and making really lowball offers for various players.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like calling about guys like Jonnu Smith and offering a conditional 6th-round pick, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
In true Pittsburgh fashion. I mean, the only thing that would be less surprising would be the Packers doing that. But the Steelers are doing that. So,
yeah.
I don't understand this comment at all. I will replace Wyatt with Musgrave. I think, hold on. Maybe I remember.
Oh, no, he
Rewind to
was
the
talking
top.
about. I
Did
know
he
what he was
list
talking about.
guys that he thought? Here it is. Here's his original: Van Ness, Wyatt,
Yeah,
and Walker. So now
I
he's
get
saying
what you're.
Van
I
Ness,
got you.
Musgrave, and Walker. And I think that that's I like that take
Yeah.
because we're gonna turn our attention to 2023. I would say like 2022. The 2022 class is certainly making contributions kind of everywhere you would hope that they would.
Yes.
And we feel like there's a little bit of untapped potential for a couple guys, most notably Quay Walker. And like if Sean Ryan, finally puts it all together and becomes a consistent, reliable right guard for us, great. I'm not holding my breath, but that would certainly elevate the team. But that's kind of maybe like the one area would be like maybe Sean Ryan or like getting some more from Romeo Doubs or Kingsley and Nagbari, the one of those guys
Yeah.
just kind of turning it on full time instead of flickering, that would help. But 2023, I feel, is maybe the spot where we've got the most untapped potential. So obviously it starts with number 13 overall, Lukas Van Ness.
For sure.
And when we drafted him, like I was very vocal about saying he was my number one overall prospect in that class, and that his ceiling was JJ Watt. Like that's how I felt about him. But that he was extremely, extremely raw. And it's certainly borne itself out that you can see the flashes, you can see the potential, and he's got a body for days. And we could play him inside or outside. And the question is like, is the development going to what's that?
I need that clip. We'll get that
one.
You
know what? Wait a minute. Where's the there?
It's like,
did that show up on your screen when I pressed that button? Do you see that? Okay.
No.
Well, it showed up for me.
Okay.
There's a new feature that this software added where you can press a key. I forget what it is for you. I mapped it to F on my keyboard.
Oh,
and it'll add a marker so you can go back and find your clip later. So I just did it. But the consistency and the development is the big thing for Van Ness. And
yeah,
if he can hit just what we hoped he would hit in year 3, like if he can do that, if we get the year 3 from him that the Bosas and Gary, and TJ Watt, that we got from these guys in year 3, and athletically, like it's not a stretch at all to ask that he could do that. But if we get that kind of breakout year in year 3 from him, that radically transforms the defense. Radically. Because, Rashan right now is our only reliable edge rusher. You need 2 guys. And, like, frankly, I love Rashan to death. I would really like for him to be our second best edge rusher, not our best edge rusher.
Yeah. I mean, there's
Lukas Van Ness's ceiling is much higher than Rashan Gary's ceiling, despite the fact that Rashan Gary has a crazy high ceiling. And we've seen Rashan hit that ceiling at times before. And again, freaking injuries, because our team cannot stay healthy. Man, that would be transformational. And I think that just about everybody in the chat has highlighted Van Ness as like, yeah, we know that he's the guy who, if he can have a breakout year, it changes this team more than like anybody else besides Jordan Love. Jordan Love had his breakout year.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. It's quarterback and it's edge rusher. Those are the 2 positions. If you can have a guy who is transformational. I mean, look at freaking Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's roster has sucked for years. And yet they're always a force to reckon with because of one guy. And Houston was kind of the same way for a bunch of years too. And there's been a plenty. I mean, the Browns don't have a terrible roster, but there have been times over the last few years where due to injuries and due
one-man
to
show.
strange coaching decisions and stuff. It's been a freaking one-man show from Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
And you're still pretty nervous to play the Browns because you
Yes.
know that Myles Garrett is enough of a wrecking
Yes.
ball that it doesn't really matter if everybody else around him sucks. He might
Yeah.
still come in and wreck your day.
Yeah. It was kind of like when Aaron Donald didn't have anybody around him either. It was kind of like, yeah, he doesn't have a lot of great stuff around him, but it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you have a player where it's like, yeah, you know, the supporting cast might not be that great, but it doesn't matter. Like, that's what you're looking for. That's why Green Bay's taking big swings in the first round of the draft at edge rusher, because they want to find somebody who's big, you know, supremely athletic, and can find that monstrous ceiling. And Gary was that type of swing. Van Ness is 100% that type of swing. And yeah, I think when you look at Van Ness, even just now, like if you go through the draft and you go, okay, like if you put the filter on and go, okay, like Green Bay's type and type that would fit this 4-3 of like big edge rusher who could defend the run and be athletic getting after the QB. It's not a long list of guys after Van Ness where you go, yep, that would have fit, right? It's not very big. Even Will McDonald a few picks later was not a fit. I know they brought him in on the visit. He was 240. Yes, he would have fit the 3-4, but they never wanted even those guys, those types for the 34. So he was never going to fit. He was never going to fit that transition, for one. The next guy was obviously Myles Murphy, who I think JJ and I were both adamantly against them doing that. Did not want that to happen at 13. Prospect. I didn't love the Van Ness one, but I would have been even more upset, drastically more upset if the pick was Murphy. He has not done anything. I don't think Anadike Uzama is at that size. I think he would have been more of the rotational player and Igbare is, rather than the true starter, so you can toss him out as well. Obviously, Nolan Smith is another guy who doesn't fit there one bit. I don't remember what Foskey's measurables were out of Notre Dame. He was maybe a little bit bigger, but again, he was still a lanky guy. He wasn't built like a defensive end. And Keon White's probably the next big one, right? Where it was like, okay,
I thought
there was some links to that, right? If Van Ness was gone,
they were taking Keon White at 13.
Good chance.
I think the Packers were shocked that Van Ness was there, because I think they were planning on taking Keon White.
There was a lot of that Keon White smoke late. And so, you know, those are the guys where you look at Murphy and you can compare him to a guy who went a few picks earlier too, relative to Van Ness and Tyree Wilson, of like, yeah, he has surpassed Wilson. He has surpassed Myles Murphy. Keon White would be an interesting case study. I think he's played a little bit more up and down the line, if I'm not mistaken, in New England. He's somebody
He's been spotty.
He's somebody I really want to dive into and look at heading into year 3.
I liked him a lot.
Pelotu is another one from USC. I think who sort of fits the bill, but like, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's okay. I was just saying that White was my number 2 edge rusher in that class. I liked Van Ness number 1. I liked White number 2. Now there was a significant gap between the two.
Yeah.
And I kept calling White like the poor man's Van Ness. But there was a big gap for me from him to the Houston guy.
Anderson?
That they took back to back. Willie Anderson, yeah. There was a big gap for me from Keon White to Willie Anderson.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's who it was.
Yeah. And so like, again, there weren't that many with that type. Zach Harrison was somebody in the 3rd, right? Bigger dude and athletic, right? That was in that same type. Yaya Diaby was another one out of Louisville who's had some flashes in Tampa Bay when he's been healthy. So again, relative to what there's been, it looks like a fine swing, right? Relative to the edge rusher position. Now, of course, and I have pointed out, and so have many, Christian Gonzalez still being on the board hurts quite a bit because, was highly thought. And I think you're going to potentially see some big things out of him in year 3. But yeah, I mean, this draft was a lot of swings along the defensive line, and not a lot of it has panned out so far in the first. And I think, to me, again, down the line, really quick, like Will Anderson, yep, obviously, and then Carter, of course. Like those were like the real obvious consensus near the top, right? Wilson has not done so for Vegas. Will McDonald has been fine. I think you would probably put him next, honestly. But Kalijah Cansey has proven to be just a pass rusher, right? You don't see a lot of rundown stuff unless he's trying to get around guys. Who else was in this first? Mozzie Smith has been a disaster in Dallas. Miles Murphy has been a disaster in Cincinnati.
Shocker.
Brian Brzee has not gone well in New Orleans very much. Nolan Smith's done very well for Philly, but then Anadike Uzama, we really don't hear much of at all in Kansas City. So, again, when you look at guys of like, okay, who has room to make that jump? Like, you could maybe, again, you can throw McDonald in there, right, of edge rushers. I just don't think we're going to see a lot from Murphy and Wilson. And so you have Anderson, you have Nolan Smith, and then you have kind of McDonald and Van Ness, who are hinging on, like, I know McDonald had double-digit sacks last year, which is good. So maybe he's already arrived. You would call him the third guy. And then Van Ness, who's right there. So, and who actually has, shown enough maybe that we could take that step. So those are kind of it for the first round, like, where there was a lot of defensive linemen taken. So, it isn't a disaster yet, just based on that first round so far of like, wow, there's a lot going on in terms of like who are hits. I mean, of the first rounders, the two running backs happen to be near the top of like surefire slam dunks to this point. So that's where we stand. And yeah, I mean, Van Ness, to kind of bring this full circle into Van Ness, where it's like, if there are guys who can do it, who can take the step, he certainly can. Now, he's never going to be the most flexible guy, but what he has to be able to do is use that explosiveness and that straight line speed and just be able to subtly set up moves, right? Just throw some subtlety in there, right? The little jab step here and there to kind of get a little ghost move here and there to get the tackles off balance, get them swiping early so that you can get to that bull rush and be effective doing so, right? I think that's what makes Jared Verse so good and why he was so impressive last year is because he got tackles a little bit off schedule early and then was able to unleash that bull rush to run people over, right? And so when you have something to set up the bull rush, it's going to help you out. And so I think if Van Ness takes that step as a pass rusher, that's how it's going to be done, right? Again, he could be a dominant run defender for sure. Like I think that's well within the range of outcomes for him because he's so darn athletic to cover enough range as well. But if you want to see him, and I think Jay, you kind of brought up, like, if you want Gary to be the 2, like, and you want Van Ness to get to that spot, like, that is the area where you go, yep, that's what we need to see more of. Because he is very much the king of, like, just trying to run through guys in college at Iowa. That was, like, his thing. It was, like, build up that speed and then just collide and hope that you could get somebody on the ground. So if he can bring more subtlety into the game to set that up, talk about elevating the defense. It's possible for him to do it.
You want to talk about the other Luke that we drafted in that same class?
Might as well.
Yeah, Luke Musgrave, like, it's hard to be excited about his future with the Packers.
Yeah.
Remind me, did you like him as a prospect in college? Are you the one?
No. My tight end rankings were Kincaid, Laporta, Kraft, Mayer, Washington, Musgrave.
It's pretty darn close to. I think
Kincaid has not been good, but
I think I had Mayer 1, Kraft 2, and then a big fall off at that point. No, Laporta. I had Laporta ahead of Kraft. Yeah, no,
okay.
It was Mayer, Laporta, Kraft as my big 3, and then a big drop off.
Yeah.
And I remember there was somebody on the network who I kept going back and forth on it for freaking ever about Musgrave, that he just was not for me. And like, to me, it's a little hard to argue against saying that, like, the only 2023 pick who's like a no doubt about it slam dunk hit so far has been Tucker Kraft. Our third rounder, like the cursed third
Heck yeah.
rounder. Like,
Easily my favorite pick through 2 days. It wasn't even close.
oh yeah. Yeah.
Wasn't even close. And I will
you get to day 3. I got pretty darn freaking excited about getting Carl Brooks in the 6.
Wicks and Brooks, absolutely.
Wicks and Brooks back to back, fantastic picks. But like Kraft, like we don't have any doubts at all about Kraft. And I just
let's get him the ball.
Like, after Kraft, obviously the next name up is Jayden Reed, but he's been so inconsistent. And I'm really not worried about Jayden Reed. I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah. Jayden Reed Jayden Reed is the like it's so over, we're so back guy right now.
Yeah.
In the class where it's like snip, snap, snip, snap. Like I'm just like 5 weeks. You go through 5 weeks of the season, you're like, gosh, all right, well, the wide receiver 1 debate's over. It's him. It's done.
Right.
See ya. Everybody's looking at his taillights as he's going by. Like, and then it just didn't see, and then it just we stalled out, on the track and kind of let all the other cars get back in the race. And so he has definitely been that guy so far where it's like the high highs are like, yep, he's got it. It's there. We're cooking. And then it's like, oh, why are we're not coming in for tires, right? We're sputtering out there, right? Like that's kind of what we've seen to this point. Like he doesn't have he never stops in the pit, JJ. He's just like, he's running so hot. And then it's just kind of everything just, comes crashing down because we aren't refueling or we aren't putting new tires on. And so I think, again, I don't think there's any doubt you look at him and you go, yeah, this is a player who could dominate from the slot. Like the perimeter is maybe the main question of like, could he be a Z? I think there's some evidence to that. I don't think there's enough yet to confirm it, but yeah, I mean, he's next on the list and it's because we've, seen him go on these stretches. He's got 14 touchdowns through 2 seasons, which is a really, really good pace to be at, right? That's really impressive stuff. And I imagine that's more touchdowns than other guys who I think are better than him from that class. So, and I know Packer fans love doing that with Doubs and Watson, saying they have more touchdowns than some of the guys in the 2022 class. But again, he's got 14 through how many games? He's 33 games. Watson has 14.
33 games.
Watson has 14 in 38 games. And then Doubs has 15 in 43 games. So,
wait, how many touchdowns did you say that Reed has? He has 17 because he's got 3 rushing touchdowns.
Oh,
he's got 3 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, he does have 3 rushing, which I guess Watson has 2 rushing. So
now he's only got 1,650 yards through 2 seasons,
which is just 50 less than Doubs through 10 less games. So needs 50 and 10 more games to get to Doubs. So it feels like because of how LaFleur has built the scheme up of like he can kind of be the Z technically because you could get him out of the bunch and you get him some good looks. And he's been able to just kind of rip through the middle of the field when he gets vertical. Right, thinking that game against Pittsburgh where he makes the big play, the Houston one that he dropped, unfortunately, and that's another big question is the drops. Can he fix them as well? But like you have a player who's dynamic enough to create some stress in certain spots that gets you really excited about him. And obviously what he can do after the catch is also, another kind of plus in the right direction for him in going into year 3. So. Yeah, I mean, I think
I'm at the point. I've had it. I'm so done with the drops. I'm not willing to hear any more excuses. Here's where I'm at with the drops.
Yeah,
if the drops are still a problem through like week 2 of training camp, I am firing the wide receiver coach. I am so effing done with the drops. It's coaching.
Brian
Our guys
Hartline,
are open.
Blake check. Brian Hartline, blank check. Ed Policy will step in. I believe he will do the right thing. But yeah,
Like I'm not willing to go into this season with these continued drops. And like I get it
Yeah.
that we're drafting guys who have drops problems in college. But tell me what our wide receiver coach does. What does he do? If our guys are open and every pass hits them in the hands and they can't catch any of them, and all these offensive drives are stalling out simply because guys can't hang on to the ball. Like, sorry, Jason Vrabel. Sure, you're a super nice guy, and like,
Maybe that's the problem. Maybe it needs to be more like Campanile. You know,
I don't know.
He
I
needs to
bring
bring that
Campanile in to
intensity.
come coach wide receivers.
Yeah, seriously,
Come
whatever.
screw with the guys.
Just
Like they
pry
know
him
how to
from
play
Jacksonville
football
again.
already.
Yeah.
I mean, so
yeah.
really
They're not
really
good.
bad drops.
They're not.
Really
They're
bad
like
drops.
key spots. And again, the Wicks is not absolved from this either. By the way, this isn't like I know
Wicks is the primary offender.
Right. I know we're very
Like,
pro
Wicks
Wicks
number
in
one,
general.
Reed
but
number
like,
two.
Don't take this Reed slight as like, oh, we're favoring Wicks. No. Wicks is we have gone in on Wicks several times because of the drops. And as JJ said, he is the primary offender. Him and the drops are worse. But Reed, because we've seen what we've seen, maybe you think like, oh, they're probably holding him to a higher standard because he's probably earned that to this point based on what he's produced relative to Wicks, right? And so that's why I think JJ and maybe to a lesser extent myself are a little harder on Reed because we've seen it, right? We've seen the big plays. We've seen him do all this, and it's like, why have you stopped doing what you're doing, right? Like that's sometimes the frustration as an armchair person watching all this of like, no, we're on the right track. We've seen where the right track is. Don't veer off. Don't take a left. Don't, stay here. Stay between the mayo and the mustard, right? Like, and that's probably, I think, the biggest thing with Reed is like, again, he's shown it. Wicks hasn't really shown it.
Oh, I feel like Wicks has shown
as much of a stretch because he just drops the ball more.
Wicks, to me, struggles a lot more with confidence. And I think that maybe is why obviously he doesn't listen to the show, so it's, stupid. But I think that's why I don't go as hard on Wicks is because it seems to me that it's like nerves and confidence and like he just gets jittery. And, like, okay, we're not supposed to say the word, the 4-letter Y word. I'm not going to say it, but it seems like he just has that. Okay? Not going to say it.
A little bit.
Reed, I'm frustrated with because he's kind of supposed to be steady Eddie.
Yeah.
And he was the first half of the season last year. And then he goes up against Houston.
That Houston
game.
His
brain falls out of his butt. And at this point, this is what made me so mad. It wasn't just the drops. It was also just
the
like
Wicks train.
brain dead, stupid decisions, like stupid mistakes where you're watching and you're like, okay, I know you're a good player and I know you're a smart guy, but like something is going on where you're just like, you're not thinking through the process the way that I've seen you think it through in the past. And you're just making like really idiotic errors. And that's what frustrates me so much with Reed is like, he's supposed to be consistent. Wicks, I think, was always that raw guy who needed to keep developing. And I feel like he's developed everywhere except for the drops.
For sure. And
maybe a little bit with the maturity.
Some of the adjustments, I think, from Wicks are maybe a little later than they should be. So balls that are off target or placed there for a reason. I know Coach Lynn is kind of talking about the same thing of like, why doesn't he understand Love is putting the ball away from the defender, needs to make that little bit of adjustment. And I do think there is some of that. To this point, you saw it a little bit more of like, your approach is to a different ball that is being thrown than what is being thrown right now. And so, yeah, I see a little bit of that. I will say Watson's drops are bad, but like by my count, he had 1 last year. And everybody else had at least 7, I think, or 6. No, I think it was 7. I think it was 7 for Doubs, Reed.
In a game.
Doubs and Reed each had 7, I think, that were tracked, and then I think Wicks had 9. But like again, it's Watson. I think corrected them really nicely. I think I'm trying to go back and look at a couple sites. Okay, so
Well, for this says Hardman
PFF
seems to
has
have good
Watson for
hands.
2.
I will just say I have kind of come full circle. I think maybe Chris talked me into this. I've kind of come full circle on like I'm convinced that Hardman is making the roster.
Okay.
And I think there's two things that have kind of impacted me there.
Okay.
One is it seems like we're only going to carry like 3 or 4 total cornerbacks on the roster, period. So like, why not keep an extra
Melton count?
wide receiver? He would be a cornerback, yeah. But that's the other thing is that with Bo Melton not in the mix at all, like I think Bo Melton was one of the big question marks for me of McCall Hardman making the roster was like, I think it's going to be one of them. So who's going to be like the guy who we're paying a lot more to, or like kind of basically the same player for peanuts? But now they've taken him out of the wide receiver room entirely. So that just kind of makes Mecole's path to the roster a lot easier. I did want to answer Bruce Edmonds' question. Does any wide receiver on this current roster have a chance to break Jordy's 14 tutty in a season record? No, because none of them can catch the freaking ball and they drop it. If they actually caught their footballs, then sure. But I'm going to go with the only guy who maybe could do it would be Tucker Kraft. So,
I was going to say it's not a receiver who could do it. I think it's Kraft, 100%. 100%. Like, I think it.
Ayers says, can't believe I wasn't subbed to Derailed. Please check and see if you're subbed to us on YouTube. We need your subs.
Please do.
Please turn on the notifications.
Hit that button.
Also, if you want to be in the Twitter tagging club, I tag a bunch of people in our like going live post every week. So if you want to be in there and you're not, please let me know. Also, if you are in there and you hate being in there and you want me to remove you, my feelings are not gonna be hurt if you just message me and say like, hey, I don't need the reminder. I try to only tag people in there who I think are gonna actually appreciate being tagged.
Yeah.
Jake, I'm not taking you off of there because I put you in there just to make sure that you actually remember that we're live streaming on that day.
Every Tuesday.
It's for my peace of mind.
Usually.
So sorry, you can't exempt yourself.
Would never want to either. Because I like that and also seeing the list as well. Who's on that every week. So.
Drew says put notifications on all, not personalized. Yeah,
that's the thing.
Let's see that list careful. Get longer. It is getting longer.
Yeah.
Drew says he loves the tags. All right, good. I'm glad that people enjoy it. I have to admit, every time I do the tags, there's a part of me, the insecure part of me that goes like, "Am I annoying people?" But I'm glad to hear that I'm
just
not.
Once a week, if so.
Maybe I need to start taking Brian Hartline in there and see if we can get him to come.
Gosh, that'd be so good.
You know what makes me sad is that Ed Policy is not on Twitter.
Yes, that's the truth.
Speaking
of the truth,
I almost went. I went to go make an Ed Policy burner account this week, and then I saw that Ed Policy is already taken, and I think it's like somebody who wants to talk about education policy, and I wanted to smack them.
That's fair,
Wolf says tag Matt Ramage next week. You know what?
What about Ed Policy GB? Is that taken?
I thought about that, and then I thought, if he ever did want to get on Twitter, I didn't want to take, something
that's
like that.
also taken, which is unbelievable.
Ayers wants to see Sam Brown Jr. make it over Heath. I'm looking forward to seeing Sam Brown Jr. in training camp and seeing him hopefully in a preseason game. Ed Policy Packers.
Ed Policy horse. Okay. Yes. I think this idea. Yeah. Tyler Dershell's tag one random celebrity every week until they get
Does Ramage count as a celebrity since he's our friend?
Yeah.
Like if you're our personal friend,
I would still think so.
As a celebrity.
Probably.
Like for example,
that's the self-deprecation policy here of like, hey, like if you're a friend, if you're actually a friend of us, like you can't be that big of a celebrity because why would you do that if you were? Is that the
That's it.
thought process here? Kinda, yeah.
We're gonna
Who would-
test
who would-
this theory.
who would
We're
do
gonna
that? Who would do
we're gonna
that?
tag Rebecca Ferguson next week.
Does she have Twitter? I can't believe I'm
Who doesn't
asking.
have Twitter besides Ed Policy?
There are definitely there are definitely celebs who don't have it.
Their publicist runs a Twitter for them
Probably.
most of the time.
Might as well just tag.
Will
might as
Ferrell
well go-
on Twitter? I don't
We
feel like
should
I've ever seen him tweet.
JJ, we should just go one step up. Tom Cruise. We talked about the films on here plenty in the last.
I only
last
want
month,
him to
like-
come on if he's going to come on in character as Ethan Hunt. Okay,
Now
so
we're talking. Yeah,
so Ethan Hunt is from
I
Madison.
don't think we could
Wisconsin.
pay him his fee. That's the problem.
But Ethan Hunt is from Madison. Could we get him to come on here and talk about the Packers, talk about Northern College football?
Maybe.
I think Tom
possible.
Cruise is crazy enough he would actually do it. He would come on.
What's his
in
fee
character.
though? For his fee, by the way, if you want to help with that, the Venmo.
We just have to
Venmo QR code is up in the
Scientologist
corner
pray
here.
too.
Well, that's true.
And that would be his fee.
Live from Clearwater.
Drew says Matt Ramage is a celeb. Doesn't he rate bars? Pretty sure he gave a perfect rating to the bar I go to.
Charlie Barryn.
Oh, Charlie Barryn.
That's a great one, actually. I didn't think about that. That's really good.
All right.
That's
I don't
really
like
good.
a lot of celebrities. I like Charlie Barron's.
That would be so good, honestly. If we made that happen, Don Barclay, that'd be kind of sick too. Too old for this.
You know, I was talking to Leroy Butler one time and told him that he needed to come on my pod, and he said basically like, "Yeah, let's get it set up," and I never did anything.
Who said that?
Same with Leroy
Boy
Butler.
said that.
Yeah,
That's what we need. That we need him to say you're watching.
Mark
Derailed
Murphy
with
agreed.
Jake and JJ.
Mark Murphy agreed to come on the pod, and then his like secretary like made it impossible to make that happen. I'm not like blaming the secretary. I realize it sounded like that. I'm just saying like Mark was like, "Yeah, do it. Get in touch with my secretary and get it on the books." And then the secretary like is certainly too busy for somebody like me.
I was gonna say this. Yeah, the secretary probably doing their job of like, no, you. There's too much going on right now. You can't do this.
Okay, but listen,
which is totally.
I did not ask Mark to come on. Mark offered.
That's maybe
So there's the
maybe when he
difference.
hits retirement, he's the one to tag.
But would Mark be offended at our Ed Policy worship, even though like actually
No.
Mark is the one who we love?
I think there's a way to remedy that. Is at the end of the intro, we use for the first time since 2002. To put that in the intro.
That's pretty good. By the way, let's segue for a second here and talk about
as
Ed
if we
Policy.
haven't
Like,
already.
This is a serious thing. So there's Rob Domofsky, Bob Deshmovsky talked to Ed Policy, and he asked if Policy wanted to give out new deals to LaFleur and Gutekunst, which is a little bit of a weird question since they both have 2 years remaining. And Policy basically said, like, no, I'm not going to do it this year, but I'll do it next year because I don't want them to be lame duck. However, then, much more interestingly, here's a quote from Ed Policy via Bob Deshmovsky, talking about letting Goody and LaFleur and presumably Russ Ball just kind of keep doing their jobs as they have been. Here's what he said. Quote, "I'd stay out of their business. I would not meddle in what they do. I would communicate very frequently and openly and directly with them on all things, but certainly no team needs 2 head coaches or 2 GMs. There's not a lot of change in the way there would not be a lot of change from the way that Mark had done that." So that makes me feel really good.
Yeah.
But let's just get Mark Murphy 2.0, but younger.
Yeah. 100%.
With maybe a little bit more media savvy. I think the one thing I won't miss from the Mark Murphy era is the like once a year when he walks in front of a camera and you're like, please don't say
also
any of the things that you want to say, because he's got a little bit of a Michael Scott in him when he talks to the camera.
For sure. Even as somebody who hasn't watched The Office a lot, I know exactly what that means. How can you not? How can you not know what that means? So 100%. Also, though, Ed Policy on his way out has to. Green Bay, sorry, folks. I'm just gonna say it. They can't pick another receiver in the first round for 20 years or so. Sorry, we're not doing. We're saving it for 2047 or something. And Ed Policy on his way out will get to announce the next first round receiver pick because it hasn't happened in a long time. So. Hope you enjoyed Golden enough because we're not doing that for 20-some years. Okay, we've already planned that out. Just like Jordan Love's going to the Jets in the 30s, right?
Let's also stop drafting off-ball linebackers in the first round too. Though.
Nope, can't do that. Sorry.
And no running backs in the first round either.
Goody's standing up going, no, I didn't sign up for this part. No. No, history will continue to repeat itself.
And the big question, of course, is where is Jordan Love going to play after the Jets?
The Jets? I mean, it's been Minnesota and Pittsburgh. Those are historic
northern teams.
No matter the way you look at it.
Historic northern teams.
Cleveland, Cincinnati.
Jordan does not like the Bears. I could see maybe him having a soft spot for the Lions, except they're because early on in his career they're being a-holes.
Maybe if they haven't won.
Buffalo. Tool for this says Buffalo.
That's good.
That makes sense. I mean, Buffalo. That's the one.
How much younger is he than Josh, though?
Well,
three, 2. I'm trying to think
Cleveland still won't have a quarterback by then.
Could Burrow be done?
Burrow could be done any minute behind that offensive line.
Right.
So, yes.
So
I would never wish that on Love.
No. Northern team.
Listen.
Seattle would still count as a northern team, I guess.
Do you see me trying to get him back on track? Do you see this?
Love to the Rams.
He does not want to talk about this topic because he knows who's next. The original topic. We're talking about the 2023 players who could have a breakout season and impact.
We don't
crappy.
Do that anymore. We already did that. The
class that we don't want to talk about is 2024, but we still have
we have a lot.
We still have to talk about Luke Musgrave, and we got to talk about Colby Wooden, who he's still on the team. Crazy enough.
We've talked to Ness. Kraft was no notes. Good job, buddy. And then we talked to Reed. So we gotta do Musgrave. We've been dancing.
We have to circle back to Musgrave. I will allow you. Oh. Fine. Go ahead. For this. Derail it again. He says, "Love to Philly makes sense. The city of brotherly love, of course." Fine.
Hold on.
Give you your freaking gold star. You win.
So hold on. They run
Bruce
Hurts
woke
out of
up,
town.
by the way. Bruce woke up. He said, "Yeah, bro, answer my question. What wide receiver, not tight end?" I told you. They need to catch the ball.
Kraft.
None of them.
None
of them.
No one has a chance. Sorry, that's just facts.
Nobody has a chance if they're not going to catch the ball.
Right.
Now, Tay Wicks is still my guy. All right.
Yeah.
But it ain't happening. It ain't happening until he starts catching the ball. If he catches the ball, listen, he's open every single play.
If we must
only
pick, it's Wicks catching the football. But if we don't have to pick,
if you won't let me pick,
we're not picking anybody.
It's Christian Watson, but maybe on a different team. I mean, I'd like to bring him back. I just don't think it's going to happen. Yeah. Tool for this says no. We don't have to talk about Musgrave. All right, fine. Look, Jake doesn't want to anyway, so I guess
we'll talk about him.
Dershel says Colby got caked up. Does that mean he got fat? Is that what caked up means?
We're putting getting some bubble butt. Is that what we're talking about? Some more cake.
Ancho chili rub on brisket. Is that advice for Colby? Or
that's just advice in general? I'm gonna start that.
Drew says Ronica Stone is from California and played in Oregon. Played what? Is Ronica Stone an
Volleyball. Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be offensive. I know nothing about Ronica Stone.
Volleyball.
She's a volleyball player?
Yeah.
My wife knows a lot more about Ronica because she follows her on TikTok or Instagram.
Oh, not the everything app. Just okay.
I know nothing about. No, my wife is not on the everything app. Like, she has an account. I don't know if she has the app installed.
Gotcha.
But I don't know a darn thing about the spouse or significant other of any athlete in any sport, regardless of gender. I don't. Only reason that
I know a few, but
there's only
one
athletes, that I've ever known.
So
there's only one I've ever known, and it was because we literally signed Simone Biles' husband, and then everybody talked about him for an eternity. Other than that,
I will say I know who Travis Kelce's significant other is. I will put myself on the record saying I know who that is.
I'm drawing a oh yeah.
After that, it's Ronica Stone playing volleyball. JJ Watt's wife, Kealia, she played soccer.
No idea. I don't watch soccer.
She did play soccer. I know that. I think that's the extent I have. That's all I got.
Dershel says, real question is, who did Rodgers marry?
I have.
Here's my question. Who the heck cares?
I have a guess.
She's into some crazy religion, and I don't know. Okay, let me get super shallow for a second.
Hold on. Did this girl? Hold on. He was linked to
Rodgers. Ever since Danica, Rodgers progressively downgrades in the looks department every single time he gets a new girlfriend. So that's me being super shallow. Dershel says, I was thinking the chick from Tiger King. Which chick from Tiger King? There's so many chicks in Tiger King. Carol Baskin. Carol Baskin? Joel that says Giselle Bundchen. That's who the chick from Tiger King is. All right. Yeah.
Wait, what? No.
Yeah, Giselle Bundchen.
No.
Is Giselle Tom Brady's ex?
Yes.
I don't give a crap about. I just don't.
My guess would have been the daughter of the Bucks owner, but I think she
that was a thing
probably
for a while.
Posted something on that, even if she probably would have said something. So I don't think so.
Drew says Carol Baskin was a Spice Girl. I believe it. Oh, you're saying saying the daughter of the Bucks owner was a Spice Girl. Okay.
No.
Bruce, hold on. How can I hide this?
No, Bruce.
I'm hitting delete comment.
Bruce, no. I don't know if you delete it though. That might send him to the
still
shadow
on the
realm
screen.
For 30 seconds. It's fine. Start typing in chat. There we go. It's out of there.
Oh, Ayers says any shot Welch makes it over McDuffie. I don't know why they wouldn't both make it, to be honest with you.
Potentially.
Let me revisit let's see, here it is. 2025 roster projection. Let's see, delete Jaire Alexander and promote nobody because we don't have any corners. Yeah, here we go. So linebackers, we have Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper, Isaiah Simmons, who I now believe is making the roster, Isaiah McDuffie, Tyron Hopper for some reason. Okay, so that's 5 right there. Yeah, I agree that it's, out of McDuffie, Hopper, and Welch, you're probably only getting 2 of those guys. So, and maybe only one Hopper because Colin Oliver exists. They're not going to cut Hopper. They should, but they're not gonna.
That's what I mean. That's the problem. I think they're not going to. So what do we do then?
Oh,
especially if you think Simmons is going to do it.
Going to the Bengals. That's hilarious. Yeah, Simmons is making the roster at this point. I think.
That makes it really complex then, if you're going to even have this kind of discussion. So
the problem is, as crazy as it is to suggest this, I think Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper, and Isaiah Simmons are all like the same type of linebacker, right? Like all 3 of them on paper should be our will, right? We got
Who'd
3
you say?
wills. Huh?
Who'd you say? Which
Quay,
3?
Cooper, and
Quay,
Simmons.
Quay, Cooper, and Simmons.
Like
Probably,
they
but
should all be a will.
Probably, but like I get like if you think Cooper's gonna be a will, then I get why you're still putting Quay at Mike. Like I think if Cooper had like maybe 10 more pounds on him, I think I would be fine flipping those. But yeah, no,
Wait, did you say Cooper is too light to be a will?
No, Mike.
Oh,
If he had a 10
well,
more
all
pounds,
three of them are
I
too
feel
light
like
to be a
could,
Mike.
Well, I think Quay's like 240. Which in this,
I mean, like, there's a
age, I
reason
think
they
is
make
plenty.
Quay the Mike, but
Yeah, because
it's
240.
not a natural fit for him in the slightest.
No, he was much better further away from the ball. But if you had to, between the two of them at this point.
Ayers says McDuffie is the most limited linebacker in terms of ceiling. He's the most athletically limited for sure.
100%. But he sets the floor between the ears and between the tackles, right? And that is an important floor to set at the linebacker position.
Drew, I agree with this completely.
Again,
I just like that McDuffie does the right thing. He gets beat sometimes, but at least he knows what to do. And he's a good tackler, which I care about.
Yeah. So, this
Hopper hits the gap better than Quay. McDuffie can see it on his film. I don't know. I don't. I'm going to get myself in trouble if I talk about Hopper.
Probably will.
Jake, do you want to say anything about Hopper or no?
No, I'm fine for now. I'm fine.
Coach Len says Simmons has to play Will.
Yes.
I mean, I agree.
Yes, he can't play anywhere else.
Again, I think all 3 of them need to play Will, but Simmons needs to play Will even more than the other 2.
Yeah, Simmons can play slot. We've talked about the Simmons
I think
slot.
they're going to have him
thing,
playing
right?
Sam, though. I think they're going to have Simmons playing Sam.
Hafley's going to run out there on the field to push Simmons just a little bit further away from the ball when he plays. Like, it's going to be a walkthrough. So you're going to see Hafley going, no. Keep going. Keep going. Further from the wall. Yep. There you go. Like, that's what it feels like with Simmons.
Well, I would just say I was kind of ranting about this earlier in the week on Twitter. I'm so over the gadget player. I don't want a gadget linebacker safety. Just make Simmons play linebacker. I don't want a gadget quarterback, tight end, wide receiver, running back. Just make Savion play freaking wide receiver.
Yes, but see, everybody needs a Taysom Hill, you see.
Yeah, and then they get a Josiah DeGuara.
Right.
Or Tyler Irvin or Amari Rogers.
Yeah.
Chris, I know you love Hopper. Man, the chat loves Hopper. Holy cow. Drew says Evan Williams and Edgerrin Cooper hit the hole the best on the team. Ayers says, I think he's still talking about McDuffie when he says more consistent run stopper. Chat is going nuts.
Yep.
Let's turn our attention to torture time. And no, I'm not talking about Colby Wooden. I'm talking about 2024.
No.
Oh, I like this. This is a brilliant. Oh, put it back up on the screen.
We got to do it.
This smart young fellow. It's too bad he doesn't have a profile picture in there because I have a feeling that he's very handsome. It says time to get back to Musgrave. This is Jake NFL Draft. What a great last name. NFL Draft is a great last name. All right, we're talking about Musgrave. All right, so
let's do that.
So here's your assignment, Jake. Talk about what the offense looks like if Luke Musgrave reaches his potential as a breakout year. We're not talking about, your pessimistic outlook on how limited he is. We're talking about he overcomes the limitations that it's possible for him to overcome. All right?
Sure. All right. I think what the best outcome for Musgrave is to be a featured weapon in the passing game out of 12, right? Where he's just not going to be swapping spots with Kraft. Like, it's going to be very clear as to what he's doing. He's taking ancillary pieces in the run fit and then is faking doing so to get out into space, to hurry out into space, whether it be running the short crossers, the deep crossers, over the middle of the field, down the seam, all of those things. And he's attacking, winning in the straight line, and, catching the football. I just don't think Musgrave is ever going to be able to turn. I think he is a semi-truck trying to make a corner in a street race. That's what he is. I don't see that changing. What I hope changes is he keeps his balance about him a little bit more. I think that's something that can change. But that's where the ceiling is at this point. It's like a guy who can stretch the seam, right, and almost be the Christian Watson of tight ends, right? Which we've talked about him as being such. Like, that's where we're he could do this. So it's creating big plays in an offense that is designed to create opportunities for big plays, and he can make them. It's just he's never going to be the Laporta, the Bowers, the McBride. Obviously, he's not going to be Kittle, right? Kittle's on that next level too. So, yeah, I still think you're kind of looking at a Gesicki type, where maybe a little bit more so, more so of a blocker than Gesicki, who is basically being paid like a slot receiver now and will be doing so. But that's kind of what you're looking at for the ceiling at this point. There's really isn't like man, Musgrave's on the field, like, watch out, we're going to punish guys in the run game with two tight ends. No, it's just not going to happen.
But he has to develop as a blocker.
He has to do something
to get playing time out there,
right? And
because otherwise, just put a freaking wide receiver out there. He's never going to be as good of
it's Ben Sims, receiver, right? You just put Ben Sims out there, and maybe we should be talking more about Ben Sims taking the lead, right? And so that's the thing, and it does limit you, and so yeah, it would be so nice if we had two guys who could play inline and catch the football that were flexible enough to rotate into either the flex spot or the inline spot. And that just isn't the case right now, unless Ben Sims is a guy who, jumps out at us, from way over yonder. So yeah, I just don't see how Musgrave can, become this like people moving player. And I think in this run game that's shifting more and more, he has to do so. Otherwise, Green Bay's kind of tipping their hand when he's out there. So he has to do so. And that's where, again, it would have been really nice to have Colson Loveland on this football team. So, but this is where we're at
Jake,
right now.
Does it make you feel any better that we
Probably
did not?
No, go ahead.
I wanted to
go ahead. No. You should.
I just realized I can't bear to look at sad Jake. So I'm
No. Go ahead.
Leave the
Come
question
on.
from my mind.
Come
Nope,
on.
Deleted it.
Make me sad, JJ. Do it right now.
I'm not gonna do it.
Well, are you mad now because Drew did it to me? Okay, and you didn't, and I could take yours, I think, but
I could never be mad at Drew.
Drew's hurt me in my
is
soul.
Sweetheart. All right, fine. I'll ask you the question. Does it make you feel any better that we did not pass on Colston Loveland? He was gone long before we were on the clock. Does that make you? Does it help you?
I think so. Grief? If he wasn't a Chicago Bear, I think if he went to any team, other team, it'd be kind of like, all right, yeah, we didn't get him. It's that
you had to choose.
Passing,
you had to choose between the Bears having Ashton Genty or Colston Loveland. What would you pick if you had to pick one of those two outcomes? Let's say that we had pick number 9, and you could only choose either Ashton or Colston.
Well, I'd pick
Colston. Okay, but it's not the Packers. You're drafting for random team X. At pick number 9. And the only thing you can do is just keep Genty or Loveland away from the Bears.
Oh boy. I don't know. This is hard.
This is making me mad right here. Listen, tool for this. Do you not
Amen to
understand
that.
how much effort I put into
Oh
trying to block out
no.
the negative
That hurt.
thoughts in my mind,
That feels so good.
and the painful memory, the PTSD? All right,
Gosh, I honestly I'd forgotten about it.
I I
I
worked so
blocked it
hard to
out.
forget.
I don't know because I feel Genty was a top 3 player for me. Loveland was a top 6 player for me. So I mean, by that standard, I would prevent them from getting Genty, I guess. But like, if I was thinking for Green Bay and like what the Green Bay could do with him,
Does
and
it
just
move the
thinking
needle
about,
for you at all that you'd hear announcers saying "Love to Loveland"?
that sounds so good. Sounds so good.
Almost as good as "Love to Romeo." Right?
Right, that's what I mean. Like if you draft Loveland, you gotta keep Romeo. Like this offense sounds incredible. We gotta. Football is a romantic sport. You gotta keep it, right? So, yeah. So it stinks. I wish the Bears would just taken Warren. Been stupid, but they weren't. It's lame.
Drew says, "Wow, JJ, that was too far." And I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea which of the 8 things I just said that's in reference to.
I don't know. We've reached the 90-minute mark is where the depression set in for Loveland.
I can
go
get
there.
you way more depressed.
This is why we did, guys. I'm telling you, this is why we didn't start talking about Musgrave earlier. This is exactly why, because we knew that the conversation was gonna get to here.
Oh, it's about to get so much worse. Next up on the board, Jordan Morgan. Jordan Morgan hits his ceiling. That means that he is playing at which offensive line position for the Packers?
I mean, if it's ceiling, it's got to be left tackle. I think
Right.
that's the ceiling. I think the settlement is playing guard, right, where Belton kicks over to tackle in 26, right? That seems like settling. There is something below
settling is
which
he just
tough.
Continues to be a backup.
Well, no, that's DEFCON 1. Said he's a backup, and you've taken him in the first. Again, I wasn't like, banging down the door for like Cooper DeJean necessarily, but it was very clear that he was a better player than Morgan at that selection. As was Edgerrin Cooper.
Here's the big question. The big question as it pertains to Morgan is like we've already established like clear and obvious answer of like who impacts the team the most if they are the one who hits their potential is like it's clearly Lukas Van Ness. So the question with Jordan Morgan is how much of an upgrade is Morgan over Rasheed Walker? Like peak Jordan Morgan versus what we've already got from Rasheed Walker. How much of an upgrade is it? Is it much of an upgrade?
Probably not.
I think Rasheed hadn't really broken out yet by the time we drafted Morgan.
No. And like I think like the Jordan Morgan thing of like, versus Rasheed is maybe you're getting a little bit more fluid player, right? I think that's probably the only upgrade I'm giving him at this point over Rasheed, where it's like, he's maybe just a little more like coordinated with the fluidity of like changing direction, whereas like Walker's maybe a little clunkier, but not as aesthetically pleasing to look at perhaps when he's redirecting and doing all that stuff and recovering. But other than that, like I feel like in the offense they're in, if they're gonna, if they want their tackles as well as like the interior players to get after some guys in the run game, I feel like Walker is better for that. He had a rep in college that I think a lot of people remember that I think would lead everybody to believe that already. But I do think, because I know people are gonna be like, well, Morgan, they drafted Morgan to play guard, and it's like, well, that's fine, but like if they're going to be like a predominantly gap team and they're going to start breaking out like trap plays and they're going to run some crunch, but they're also just going to run some, they're going to keep doing what they're doing with some gap stuff. It's like, well, then Morgan needs to play outside because I just don't think like he is the like mauling, people moving, bulldozer out there that some of these guys are going to be with like Banks and Belton, especially if Belton takes the right guard spot. Like, you're going to see that and you go, why would we want to downgrade from this, And so that's another question that you have to ask. But like to this point, like I think to where Sheed's at now, like Morgan hitting his ceiling could certainly be better as a like pass protecting tackle. Is he going to be better than Sheed in the run game? If he hits a ceiling, again, it's going to be in more plays where he's, got to hook the 5-tech on the backside of plays because of the quicks. Like, that's what's going to be where he's better than Sheed in the run game. Like, it's not going to be with sort of like, push him off his spot, setting the edge, right? Go bury a guy. Like, he's not going to be better than Sheed in that regard. So that's what makes, I think, a little complex in terms of that battle. But yeah, I mean, the athleticism is there. It's just, again, with a lot of these guys, and Tomlin's talked about it before. It's like, I don't care about the hand placement. We can fix that. I'm not worried about that. Is he a good athlete? And Morgan is that. And so, like, I do think like he can become a good left tackle. Morgan can, but I don't. It's tough that we just don't have a lot of looks at him to this point. So,
Bruce Edmonds asks, if they took Cooper in the first instead of Morgan, would you have been good with the pick? No, I would not. I don't want to take an off-ball linebacker in the first round. I think that Cooper went at right about the right spot. Now, I do think if Morgan had not been there, I think they clearly were going to take Cooper at 25 instead.
I mean, Cooper was definitely in my top, like, 32, I'm pretty sure.
I was fine with taking Jordan Morgan in the first round. He just was always a weird fit for the Packers, and he has not developed very well for us. That's just the whole issue. And, like, frankly, not a lot of our offensive line players have developed in the last couple of years. Rashid and Zach Tom, notwithstanding. Nobody else has. And it's been a little bit frustrating that, guys who we've invested significant capital in have not really done anything. Meanwhile, our 7th rounder and our 5th rounder are kicking butt at tackles. So
I had Cooper 26th overall.
Heck, does this have to do with
25th,
anything, Bruce?
So.
Ay.
Oh man.
My daughter and her older sister. I only have one daughter, so sorry about that. I got a son.
Yeah.
Acme Army Podcast wants to know what Walker commands on the open market. So we've talked about this, and we feel that he is fringe top 10 money, somewhere between 10 and 15. Like,
yeah,
maybe the 12th-ish highest paid tackle in the league kind of makes sense for him, but also, like, okay, if you're the most recent guy getting the contract, then you get a little bit more, kind of a reset of the market type of thing. So he might get a little more than that. But we've also talked about the fact that the Packers.
All right. Go ahead.
Did you want to say something?
Just on this for money really fast. Just on average per year at the moment. If you're looking like, they don't, it's a left tackle, so they don't have freaking Wirfs on here, which is so stupid. Can I just have all the tackles? Nope, you're not going to let me have all of them. Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm just going for like guys who are 25 mil and over at both of the tackle spots. That's Wirfs, Sewell, Lane Johnson. Then you have Williams, Darisaw, and Tunsil. Now, Andrew Thomas is at 23.5. Jake Matthews, 22.5. Jordan Mailata, 22.
And here we're getting kind of into Rashid.
Right? So now, Jordan Mailata done. Here we go. Okay, at $20.5 million, Dan Moore from the Titans. Garrett Bowles.
Solidly Rashid Walker.
From Denver. Deion Dawkins, who looks like a steal at the moment, at $20.02 million per. He's probably going to want some more money. Decker's at 20, and then Ronnie Stanley's at 20, who's albeit been inconsistent, bounced back last year after those inconsistencies a little bit with Baltimore and got $20 million a year for it over 3. Right? He's not going to see all of that, but that's the AAV we're looking at. And you mentioned, JD, that Sheet's probably going to get a bump. Why? Because if you don't have the left tackle, you are desperate enough to overpay for that tackle. I do not see how he doesn't get 22 at this point, just based on what we're seeing at the position right now. Like, I don't know who's up next for the deal, but like, I think Aquanu and Cross are getting there, right? Like, I think that can be done after. No, that can be done now, I think, if they want it to.
One thing we've talked about with Rashid is that the Packers are in a situation where they have to consider trading Rashid because we don't think they have any intention of paying Rashid what he's going to command on the open market.
I don't think so.
Do you let him walk for a compensatory pick if you have other options that you feel can play tackle? Now, the catch-22 here is, what if you end up needing those bodies late in the year if you're actually making any kind of a playoff run, right?
Yes. Yeah, and that's the tough thing, right? And you have a lot, and then that's the other thing too over this bringing up. Like, they've put a lot of money in Jenkins already. Banks just got a massive deal. We know Zach Tom. It's only a matter of time. For some reason. So it's only a matter of time.
It's a little easier if you don't have Banks soaking up all that dough.
Yeah, it certainly is. But with all that money going there, who's not going to get the? I mean, at this point, it's straight up. Who's not getting it? Tom or Walker? And if you're making that call, like, it's no question. No disrespect to Sheet. I think she has done a tremendous job, especially being a 7th round pick. So
Bruce asks,
"It's a lot of money
going to fit the bill?" He says, "I don't think so. It's irrelevant because we already paid him." Like,
yeah, now it's like
all we could do is
I hope so.
Works.
I hope so.
Little too late to be asking that question.
But, like, what could we get for Walker in a trade?
I think
Second?
we could.
I mean,
I would say a third. I'd say a third.
So, like, I'm going down the list of, like, teams who could, like, we're desperate to make this run. We need this, right? Like, who is that? Kansas City, perhaps. I could use some stability over there. They got Josh Simmons. If he's healthy, somehow off the patellar tendon injury, then they're set. If he's not, they paid Jalen Moore $15 million a year. Just another great indication of what Rashid's going to get out there. They could be desperate. Cincinnati could be desperate. Denver, they start feeling themselves a little bit. Houston, start feeling themselves a little bit. Right? Like, you've gone, the route of, like, hey, Tunsil's out of here. We're going to try to refill this cupboard with picks. They got Ursery. They have Cam Robinson. Like, is that needle moving enough? Does Rasheed Walker set you over the top and you can just extend him? I mean, it's a lot of teams that could probably be lining up. So
I asked the robot what it thinks.
Yeah.
And it acknowledges that there is a tier curve for 2 reasons. One, if you are a serious playoff contender, your picks are devalued because they're later in the draft, and you're more desperate for him. So I described him as the 11th best left tackle in the league on an expiring rookie deal, costs you pennies this season, and he'll need a new contract in the offseason.
Yeah.
For a playoff contender who's likely to be picking somewhere between 25 and 32, Houston. The expected compensation is a late second and a conditional 4th, or just a late 1st if they are desperate or in any kind of a bidding war. So that's shocking to me.
Yeah.
For a mid-tier team picking from 15 to 24, they're saying an early second and a third.
Whoa.
And then if you are picking early, somewhere between 1 and 14, in other words, you are a rebuilding team, and you're viewing him as a building block in your team. They're saying that it's hard to make the case for trading picks for him because he'd be expensive. So,
yeah. Tool for this talking about Walker and a third for Hendrickson. Interesting.
I don't want to pay Hendrickson. No,
that's the problem, right? And so, so I still think there's a scenario.
I don't want to give up capital for the honor of getting to pay a guy a brand new deal. Screw that.
Yeah, especially one that's going to be like
even if it's Hendrickson, million. And he's getting
like
so old
million.
Too. Like he's about to hit his wall.
Yeah.
I'm out. Totally
would you rather get Watt or Hendrickson for Sheed?
The robot makes the comparison to Orlando Brown Jr.
Yeah.
He commanded the 31st pick overall, and
again,
later
somebody gets desperate. Somebody gets desperate. You feel good about Belton taking over at left tackle and Morgan or Ryan playing guard this year. Sure. Now again, you would trade Walker under a big condition. That condition being that the guy who's going to play the position once you trade him isn't going to be a liability. Protecting Love on that side. Now, Zach Tom could easily kick over there.
I've been advocating for it,
and it would not be a problem. Now, right tackle
rather
becomes
have him on
one.
Left side anyways.
Right tackle becomes one, but good
I mean,
chance
we haven't had
Belton
be
over there,
right tackle play for most of the Matt LaFleur era prior to having Zach Tom.
That's what I mean. Like
Belton at right tackle. I could co-sign.
And then again, I think
option.
There's a couple options. You go into next year's draft, you feel like you need offensive tackle. I still think Caleb Tiernan from Northwestern is going to end up being an option for them. And so I
love, by the way, how this was supposed to be a
influx.
Jordan Morgan conversation, and we spent the entire time talking about Rasheed Walker.
That's where we go. It's tough. Jordan Morgan, we're really excited to see if he could do it. He is very solid at right. He's very, very good at right tackle. Tom is the unicorn. He's good at everything right now. And so
I would rather have Tom at center or left tackle versus right tackle. I mean, frankly, like right tackle is is right tackle the least today, right where we sit today in the NFL? Is right tackle the second least valuable offensive line spot behind center?
No.
Like, because both guard positions
valuable.
Skyrocketed.
To me, you have to have two. You start out with two elite tackles. To me, you have to. Center's next, and then the guards are the last two. In terms of
SIS says that the guards right now are providing more value than tackles, which totally flies in the face of everything that conventional wisdom has taught us about football.
Yeah, I think we're getting out of. I think SIS might be losing the plot a little bit with that personally. I mean, I don't know. I just name a great team that has just turnstiles at tackle and being super, super great. Well, on the interior,
Chiefs never have good
that
tackles.
Doesn't have
Chiefs
Mahomes playing
garbage.
Quarterback. That doesn't have Mahomes playing QB.
The Bengals can't find.
I don't think they're a very good team.
They were for a year.
That's why
they had crappy tackles that year.
Yeah, that year. I mean, were they ever good on offense that year? The playoff stretch. The overwhelming answer is no. Like, I don't think they were a great team. I don't think they've ever been a great team. And They almost won the Super Bowl. Why didn't they?
Well, Aaron Donald going up against their interior.
Well, sure. Aaron Donald could go up against any interior and win. So, I mean, they gave up like 9 sacks to the Titans.
Again, fantastic interior, Titans.
They have one player. Yeah, I guess. Sure. I think they gave up 5.
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
They gave up 5 to the Raiders. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The guards being more valuable in tackles is potentially the most asinine thing I've heard all year. And it's been quite a year for asinine stuff, I got to say. 2025 has certainly been that. We're not quite half over. But guards being more valuable in tackles is just super asinine to me, personally.
We need to get an epic rap battle between Jake Schyvinck and SIS.
You don't even need me to do it. Just have any dude who has, I don't have a brain cell for this game. Ask anybody who does. They will destroy those fools on the computer in moments for stuff like that. Just being honest.
If Javon Bullard hits his ceiling, has he already hit his ceiling? I mean,
boy, I sure hope not.
If Javon Bullard hits his ceiling, does that move the needle for this team at all?
It might. Yeah, it might, because if his ceiling,
do you think he's going to move to corner?
Well, I think if he finds his ceiling there, like, it eases that concern. Like, if he finds it at slot and that's where the ceiling is, and he hits it, boy, then you just got to, I know Hobbs hasn't played as much on the boundary as he has in the slot in the league, but I think it eases a lot of the pressure on all these guys now playing corner because of Ja exiting, right? So, like, I think it does. If he can find it at, as you said, at corner, whether it be outside, that'd be wild if that happened. But even at the slot, like, it feels like that pressure comes off a little bit, and you just have, okay, guys in the corner room, we got to worry about the perimeter, right? It's Hobbs, it's maybe a little bit of Nixon, Valentine out there. Like, they might be able to hold it down while not having to rotate more on the defense if Bullard just finds, that ceiling. So that's what made that conversation about Starks super interesting, right, JJ, when we were back doing that in March and early April of like, hey, play him at boundary corner, ? Like, and so that's, yeah, I mean, I find it fascinating. He's probably the most fascinating player going into 2025 on this team, of like, because of all of the, like, all right, where's he playing, right? Is he going to find, so where's he going to find the home? Can he hit the ceiling on that home? Can we see much better play than we saw last year? I do find it very interesting. Pro Football Reference does that weighted career approximate value, right? And they have that set up. I don't know how he has the same weighted career approximate value as Edgerrin Cooper through one season after watching both of them play, and a higher one than Evan Williams after watching both of them play.
He did play more games than Cooper.
Yeah, if Games is like,
he played 2 more games than.
Yeah, if Games is what's weighting that.
I mean, okay, in fairness, we're talking about a really tiny numbers. Like, the weighted average value that we're talking about here is 4.
Sure.
So it ain't much.
Do we think like Van Ness and Musgrave should have the same through 2 seasons?
Because
they do.
They must really be weighting Musgrave's 1 touchdown.
I would think, yeah, it has to be. Which I don't.
Bruce says rap battle between JJ and Jake. Here's the problem. I don't know if you guys notice this when I'm talking on here. I have a stammer, and I can usually disguise it well enough on a podcast that's not a problem. If you ask me to rap, like, my words are gonna lock up, and I'm not gonna be able to say anything. can't do it. I can't talk quickly. I can talk loud, but not quickly. Be the slowest rap you ever heard. Yeah, I mean, the weighted average value on PFR is interesting. But I have always struggled to understand how they calculate it. I mean, Devontae Wyatt is a 6 and Quay Walker is an 18. And Devontae Wyatt has played 3 more games than Quay Walker. Yeah. So I don't know how I just don't have an opinion
on away
it
from Tom.
Know.
How is Tom 20 and Walker's 18?
So I just don't close? Know. But I just don't even know how it's
very
calculated.
Weird.
I don't.
Me either.
I don't have a strong opinion on it. I don't know how useful it is.
Yeah, but just thought that was interesting little nugget there. But yeah, Bullard finding a home would be crucial. Because again, if he can find it at slot, I still think the safety room is still deep enough to ease that loss. I think everybody's very excited about Oladapo after kind of what we got to see from him late in the season. So, yeah, I think that'll be a massive help in the secondary. So, why did I say that?
Oh, no. Let's talk about Marshawn Lloyd, because this is like the
over
hidden.
Musgrave is what I think he was trying to go for there, but yeah.
Marshawn Lloyd is like the hidden 2025 draft pick. All right, like he didn't play frickin' at all last year, so we're adding him to this team. It's kind of like getting a bonus draft pick.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah.
Do you have any expectations for Marshawn Lloyd? I heard. Can't remember. I think he's hurt again already. Doesn't he have a new injury? I think he does.
That's how the 3rd round pick goes, man. That's how it feels. Like we are, as they say, so back. In terms of the, I mean,
here,
he's
Sports Illustrated says, "Quote: Finally healthy, Marshawn Lloyd's what's next mentality shifts." So this is written 1 day ago. So I think it was somebody else who's hurt that I was thinking of. So no. Yeah, according to Bill Huber, there's no reason for us to think it's still hurt.
Looks like Paul Brettel wrote something today. It says from Monday, or from yesterday, I guess. After navigating injuries, Packers running back Marshawn Lloyd is healthy and ready for what's next. So that's good. Yeah, I think it must have been something a little earlier, back in May, perhaps.
Well, he had appendicitis last year.
Yes, he did.
Like after his 2 or 3 injuries, then he had appendicitis, like bad appendicitis.
Mm-hmm. Right, and so again, I think the door's open for him to take that RB2 role if he proves it. Again, the fumbles were really the question. I think we had the most. I wish we had the most coming in when he was drafted, right? And I think that's a dangerous thing if you can't hang on to the football. But like the explosiveness is real, no matter what. And again, in a gap scheme, it looked like when USC had to find gaps for him to run through, he stayed patient and was able to transition quickly from horizontal movement to vertical movement and, create big plays wherever he was at on the field. And Caleb found him a couple times on scramble drills, catching the football. So yeah, I think he could definitely take that role and run with it literally. So yeah, that's what's exciting is you're kind of adding an explosive element to the running game, which again, JJ, I thought we were beating the drum for Travion. If that possibility were to to happen, but he can be it if given the opportunity of staying healthy and just hanging on to the football, he can do it. So that's what's exciting.
You and I had really settled on Marshawn Lloyd kind of being our top option for running back for the Packers in that 2024 class. I forget who went really early. There was a running back who went really early.
Brooks did.
Yeah, Brooks. But like after that, you know, we
Yeah,
had
after
kind
that,
of
it was
settled
kind of
on
a
like,
crapshoot.
sure, why not take Marshawn Lloyd in like
Yeah.
roughly the third round? That's kind of exactly where we landed on.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And it was, makes sense. He got a lot of looks in the game he did play, touched the ball 7 times. So,
our big
like,
concern with him was like tread on his tires in college. And so the fact that he was hurt so many times his rookie season in the NFL, that
yeah,
was
that's going to be the.
terrifying.
Mhm.
If he can make a full recovery, it could be really nice to be able to rotate him and Jacobs out with each other,
Yeah.
especially Jacobs is built to be a bell cow, but he's also no spring chicken. He's
No,
got plenty of tread on his tires.
for sure.
So if you have a guy in Lloyd who you can go to if Jacobs is going to miss some time, which again at his age just is something you have to be prepared to live through. I think that can be a huge boon to this offense that wants to run the ball so much. And if they can not miss a beat, that could be huge for the offense
Yeah.
overall.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Edmonds with a super relevant question. Should my kiddo spend $5 on a Dead by Daylight 5 Nights at Freddy's expansion pack or $25 on an Invisible Fortnite bundle? I mean, I'm a miser. I'm as miserly as they come. So I'm rather see you could spend $0 and go throw rocks at trees or something. But I'll vote $5. Jake, what say you?
Even as somebody who plays Fortnite, I would probably say do the 5. Just spend less money. Probably. Fortnite's got enough money. Might as well help the others. The expansion packs for 5 Nights at Freddy's and Dead by Daylight, I think. So.
Chris says Spot Track is way more accurate on contract projections. I don't know about that. I never use Spot Track.
Okay.
I find a lot of problems with their numbers about like already done contracts. So I don't really tend to look at them for like projected contracts. I like over the cap when you're looking at details about existing contracts. But it's good to know that Spot Track may be more valuable for projections. So I'll have to check that out.
Okay, as we're wrapping up here, all right, as we've crossed the 2-hour mark, I've got a couple more questions, JJ, that we're going to kind of rapid fire. Coach Lim put this in a little while ago. Says, would Graham Barton have been a better fit than Morgan looking back on last year's draft, or even Tyler Guyton? Any thoughts on those ones?
So Tyler Guyton, that's a throws a bit of a monkey wrench in the question. The problem with Barton is that we would have had to trade up for him, and I don't know.
I thought
Didn't Barton go
right after?
Oh, that's brutal.
I'm pretty sure. Hold on, double checking. Give me a second.
I mean, I loved Barton. Everybody loved Barton.
Yep, went the pick after Tampa. He was available.
That's brutal. I thought he was a pick before.
Yeah, so Barton, I mean, probably takes the center spot, right? And then you don't have to worry about moving Jenkins. And so you feel comfortable Myers walking.
I mean, frankly, I already feel comfortable with Myers walking.
Right, right, exactly. He might not have even played by the end of the season, right? Probably, yeah. So I think as a center, he could still do some damage in the power game, and that kind of eases that. And you're not getting into the contract dispute trouble with Jenkins, right? Moving over, even though he can do it. It does certainly make things feel a little better. But I do think Barton is confined to the center spot.
Probably.
As far as Guyton goes, I would say he was a little more raw. Very much a redshirt candidate. which Morgan kind of ended up being that anyway. So it's kind of no biggie. I don't know if Guyton can play guard is the real thing. Like, I think he's kind of built to play tackle, but I was kind of glad that they didn't do that. So I don't know about you, JJ, on that one.
Yeah, I probably would take both of them over Morgan, knowing what we know now. But it's tough. I mean, in the moment, like, I was not excited about the Morgan pick. I didn't think it was a great pick, but I certainly understood the logic. It's just that we changed our offensive line so much immediately after that it just, like, the fact that they would spend a first round pick on him and then so quickly give up the strategy altogether is just, I don't know.
Not a great sign.
You know, you don't want to be held to a sunk cost fallacy.
Right.
But
so that's at least
still,
they're at least kind of like, okay, well, we need to force the issue. But
all right. Well, what was your second question you wanted to hit?
Bruce saying she's excited. That's awesome. Yes or no answer. Do we have something in Monk? Says Coach Lynn.
Well, he's been getting starting center snaps in the mini camp in lieu of Elgton Jenkins, who was not practicing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he's Lucas Patrick, I guess, which would be something.
That's something. Yeah.
Out of any of the late round offensive linemen we've taken the last couple of years, he's clearly the only guy.
He's way ahead of Glover, which that's not saying anything, but he is.
No, I'm ahead of Glover. You're ahead of Glover. Freaking Bruce Edmonds is ahead of Glover.
Friends we made along the way are ahead as well.
So he's yeah.
No,
I'm checking late round offensive linemen we've taken lately. There's just not a lot of them. So we took in 2022, we had Rasheed Walker, Zach Tom. Those are two day 3 guys. Obviously, Monk doesn't clear those at all. 23, we took 0 offensive linemen. 22, we took, Monk and Glover. Glover was pointless. And then we took John Williams in 25. So
that's right.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna go like no right now. Like, I still don't see anything with Monk, but it's encouraging that they are giving him this, basically hinting that he's the backup center at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's encouraging, but I need to see something from him first. Like, ask me again after we have seen a preseason game.
For sure.
Which is obviously not the be-all, end-all. Like, Sean Ryan killed it in his first preseason game. He was like the next coming of Brian Balaga. But, I've never seen anything from Monk yet to make me excited.
No, yeah, that's fair.
I could certainly give you an updated answer before the season begins this year.
Yeah. Eric's Joyce saying, are any of the players on the O-line Royce Newman caliber? Yeah, Glover.
He says, I hope not.
No, it's Glover.
Dude, Travis Glover, if he maxes out his ultimate potential, he is Royce Newman on a bad day.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, since we've kind of covered all these guys, JJ, I want to present the final question that we kind of opened with, put in the title. Right, like, of all of these guys, we've gone through 22, 23. We touched on 24 as well. Which young player, if they max out this year, if they start hitting their ceiling this year, elevates Green Bay the most into contender status?
By the way, hold on. Drew says we need to keep Glover so nobody else becomes the punching bag.
What do you mean?
You forget
long
that
snapper.
Matt Orzech exists.
Yeah,
all right.
There it is, folks. There it is.
All right. So Yeah, so we're bringing it full circle.
I think
who
we have
elevates
same
the Packers
answer.
the most?
If they hit their ceiling. Yeah, this year.
We're skipping Van Ness because he's clear and obvious number one answer.
Yeah,
and it's not even close.
That's
after
totally
Van
fine.
Ness.
Okay, so now I have to think about that.
I say we count down 3, 2, 1, and then we say a name at the same time.
Oh boy. Okay,
you're not allowed to pick a true rookie. All right, it's got to be at least 2024 or previous.
Dang it.
Okay. I got my answer. I had to think about it a little bit because there's two guys.
Oh, we didn't even talk about this guy, but oh man,
somebody we didn't talk about.
Yes.
So I mean, it had to be a day 3 guy. We didn't. There's no
correct. Shoot.
Well, or Tyron Hopper, but we.
Nope, it's not him. No. All right.
We'll
go at the same time because I mean Van Ness is the obvious one because the pass rush, right? The pass rush gets way better. You're affecting the QB on several more occasions, right? It makes the most sense.
You're right, Drew. That's what he's not saying.
Yeah, I haven't said it yet. What are we doing?
We all know.
It's actually not Valentine. It's actually not Valentine.
It's Caleb King.
It's not Caleb. It's not
Sean Clifford.
No.
All right.
Well, I'm going to say the first one. This is not a day 3 guy that I'm going to say, but I want to bring up that guy on day 3 as well.
Okay.
But, all right. Ready?
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Javon Bullard. Taywicks is a good one. Yes.
Because if Taywicks hits his ceiling, he's our wide receiver 1, and the offense is solved.
Yes. Yeah,
that's it.
If Bullard hits his ceiling as a slot corner, the pressure eases. The secondary, I think, can not going to rest in the laurels, but they're going to feel more comfortable with what they're doing without Ja in the room right now.
I have a hard time going Bullard because we have safeties, we have slots, we have nickels. What we don't have is boundary corners.
We kind of have slot players. I don't know.
Nixon is a perfectly sufficient starting slot
for some things.
We have a passel of guys who can play from the slot. Hobbs can play from the slot. We got a passel of guys who can play from the slot.
But
can anybody play the boundary?
Those guys who are playing on the slot, they're moving there and then they're taking away bodies from the boundary. And so if a guy can lock it down, that we probably think cannot play in the boundary at all.
Yeah, then those guys that Sean Nixon to be our starting boundary corner, and whoop-de-doo, we're not winning a Super Bowl.
Not me.
With that.
No, he'll be on the bench. Be on that bench.
Well, then we only have two corners,
the other name I was gonna say real quick was Carl Brooks, because if he hits the ceiling, JJ, all 3 phases, right? Both phases, run D, pass rush, is getting a massive boost if he finds a way to, I think, hit the ceiling that we all think he could potentially hit, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we could have...
That's the other name.
When you're saying ceiling for Carl Brooks, are you saying ceiling on the inside or on the edge?
Inside for me.
So if he's on the inside, then we got him and Devontae in the middle, and Rashan and also Lukas Van Ness outside. Sign me up for that. We got a lockdown front 4 at that point. If you're saying Van Ness and
we're giving
Brooks,
him the automatic, if we're giving the automatic,
that solves the defensive line, and then I stop worrying about the cornerbacks so much too. Because if we have a defensive line, I'm not so scared about the cornerbacks. I'm mostly scared about the cornerbacks because our D line is so thin. It's Devontae Wyatt,
Van Ness is first on our list,
Sean Gary, and nobody else.
Yeah.
So that's a good answer. It's a good answer.
I feel like Brooks is the potential, but Wicks is always. You will never hear me complaining about anybody answering anything positive with Tay Wicks, no question. So
Ayers says he's surprised they're playing Wooden at 1 Tech. I mean, frankly, they're not playing him at all. So they're putting him at the spot where they don't have any players.
Yeah, they're trying something out there.
He's when they move you around as much as they have been, it's a bad sign in Green Bay. It means they are probably about to cut your butt. So.
Yeah, they're like, hey, this is last effort right here. You got anything here? No? All right, well.
I got something.
Yes, we'll be seeing you. You got something?
I got something.
Okay, what do you have?
Surprise Ed policy.
What will you have?
Because it's happened again. You've squandered a perfectly good 2 hours and a quarter listening to us here on Derailed. God bless you. Thank you for tuning in. Don't know why you spend your Tuesdays with us, but we appreciate you. We love you. In the words of the late, great, honorable Mr. Ed Policy, Jake, any final thoughts from you? Go Pack